So picture this, it's 2:33 in the morning on August 14th, 2025, and we're talking about the Caspian Sea here. Two Ukrainian drones are literally about to turn this massive 4,900-ton Russian cargo ship, and I mean this thing is absolutely packed with drone parts, into nothing but scrap metal. And get this, the result of this one strike means Russia's go-to terror weapon completely disappears from the battlefield for an entire month. But here's the thing, this wasn't some random last-minute decision. No, this was the result of weeks and weeks of quiet, patient intelligence work that nobody saw coming. Now, the Caspian Sea is 500 miles from the nearest Ukrainian battlefield, and Russia basically treated it like their own private backyard pool where nothing could ever touch them. They sailed around like they owned the place, completely untouchable, and that arrogance, that was exactly their weak spot. While Russian ships were cruising around without a care in the world, Ukrainian cyber warriors, and we're talking about guys running on nothing but cheap laptops and energy drinks, had already broken into their house, so to speak. These absolute legends had hacked right into the port security cameras, literally turning Russian hardware into their own personal spy network. They sat there watching the Port Olia 4 come and go, learning every single detail about its schedule, its route, everything about how this ship operated. And this wasn't just any random cargo ship we're talking about here. This thing was a 400-foot-long conveyor belt of death, carrying enough Iranian Shahed drone parts to last Russia a full month. Taking this beast out wasn't just some military victory, this was about preventing hundreds of attacks on civilian homes. The Russians on site felt absolutely untouchable, like their sense of security was thicker than the fog rolling off the water. And honestly, why wouldn't they feel that way? They had the ultimate protection, this $1.2 billion S-400 system. This thing is basically a technological fortress with its massive radar sweeping a 400-meter radius, designed to shoot down stealth bombers and ballistic missiles from the edge of space itself. The operators were so ridiculously confident they were probably more worried about their tea getting cold than any actual threat coming from the sea. So while the Russians are sleeping soundly behind their billion-dollar wall of protection, Ukraine is about to give them the most expensive wake-up call of their lives. 2 Ukrainian drones, and it's go time. Picture this rusty old trawler with a beat-up crane lowering the first 440-pound drone into the black water, then its twin right after. Then a soldier just casually tosses a third, smaller drone into the wind. This little guy is the Decoy, and its job is beautifully simple. Ukraine's Decoy drones are designed to fly high, get spotted, and die. As the Decoy climbs toward 10,000 feet, the 2 real Palyanytsia drones go operational. These things hug the surface, accelerating to 180 miles per hour while staying just 50 feet off the water. Here's where it gets really interesting. At that altitude, standard GPS is completely useless because Russian jammers would fry the signal instantly. So these drones switch to their inertial navigation units, which don't need satellites at all. They track every single turn and bump, calculating their position based purely on their own movement. In some bunker in Kiev, the operator's screen is this nightmare of green-tinted sea spray. The 20-mile crosswind is constantly fighting him, forcing hundreds of tiny corrections to keep the drones from plowing straight into a wave. But on the Russian S-400 displays, their screen is crystal clear. This powerful radar system is scanning for threats miles overhead, but it can't see these drones skimming the waves below. They're hidden by the curvature of the earth and all that chaotic sea clutter. It's literally like trying to spot a fish from a skyscraper. The target just isn't in the right place to be seen. This billion-dollar defense system is completely blind as the strike package screams toward its target. 2:12 a.m. hits, and these 2 drones are now just minutes from their target, still completely undetected in the rough seas. Time for part 2 of this plan to kick in. High above, the Decoy drone begins its performance, and it's not just flying around, it's actively pulsing a boosted radar signature that's programmed to look bigger and more threatening than some cheap hobby drone. It's basically the electronic equivalent of kicking down the front door and screaming at the top of your lungs. Inside the Russian command bunker, alarm bells finally start ringing. This sharp, insistent beep cuts through the quiet hum, and Ivan, that's the shift commander, jolts awake, sloshing lukewarm tea all over his console. On the main display, a single lonely green triangle appears. It's high, 10,000 feet, and screaming toward the port's airspace. The Big Bird radar had done its job, spotting an intruder from hundreds of miles out. Target acquired, designate for engagement, Ivan orders, and the crew works fast. The target gets handed off to the gravestone radar, which paints this tiny object with a powerful targeting beam. On screen, the launch solution for a missile begins to populate. The system is working flawlessly, ready to unleash a $2 million weapon that moves at over 4,800 miles per hour. But Ivan hesitates. The radar signature is weak, flimsy. It's not a cruise missile or fighter jet. Firing a multi-million-dollar missile at it feels excessive, like using a cannon to shoot a pigeon. What a spectacular waste of ammunition for a questionable kill. While Ivan and his crew stare at their pigeon high in the sky, they're completely deaf and blind to the real attack happening down on the water. The two Palyanytsia drones are now inside the S-400's blind spot, this dead zone starting a few miles from the launcher where the radar can't angle down low enough to see. They're too low, too small, and too close. The port's last line of defense, these Pantsir S-1 mobile units, swivel their cannons skyward, obediently tracking the decoy Ivan is obsessing over. They're basically guarding the front door while the real threat is already inside the house, slithering right toward the unprotected Port Olia 4. Damn it, Ivan mutters. A target in his airspace, no matter how pathetic, has to be eliminated. Fine, launch one. This roar shatters the night as a missile ignites in its launch tube. A pillar of fire erupts, pushing this $2 million weapon skyward on a column of pure Russian overcompensation. It screams toward the tiny decoy, accelerating to 4,600 miles per hour in seconds. The whole system is this marvel of engineering designed to intercept the world's most advanced aircraft, but right now, it's like sending a Navy SEAL team to arrest a guy for jaywalking. So why does this billion-dollar system fall for a $500 trick? It's this trifecta of low-tech genius. First, the Palyanytsia drones are flying at 50 feet, and the S-400's radar is physically angled to look up, scanning the skies for high-altitude threats. Trying to make it look down at the waves is like asking a giraffe to look at its own feet. It's just not built for that. Second, the sea itself becomes Ukraine's ally. These 10-foot waves create a mess of false signals on any radar trying to scan the surface. To the S-400's computer, the two drones are just indistinguishable from 10,000 other bits of churning water. And third, while the Russians are focused on jamming GPS signals from satellites, the Palyanytsia drones aren't even listening. Their inertial navigation systems are self-contained, guiding them by feeling their own motion. You can't jam physics. High above, the missile finds its target. There's this brilliant flash of light and then a silent, anticlimactic puff of smoke as the decoy disintegrates. $2 million of high technology just successfully killed a drone worth less than an iPhone. And that expensive fireworks show just gave the real killers a clear, unobstructed path to the target. In the Russian bunker, there are cheers. Ivan even manages a thin smile as he watches the replay of the decoy's destruction. On his screen, the sky is clear. On the sea, however, the situation is about to get very complicated. The lead Ukrainian drone is on its final approach to the Port Olia 4, just seconds from impact. The operator in Kiev can practically taste the victory. Then his screen flashes with a new thermal signature. A much smaller, faster shadow detaches itself from the larger ship's silhouette. A Raptor-class patrol boat lurking in the cargo ship's radar shadow emerges, but too late to stop the strike. Before the operators can react, the patrol boat's bow erupts in a flash of light. A string of bright green tracers from its heavy machine gun rips across the water, stitching a deadly line just feet from the drone. This patrol boat isn't just an escort, it's a hunter. The operator in Kyiv curses. His perfect surgical strike just turned into a back alley knife fight. The patrol boat is too fast and too agile. There's no way to sneak past it to hit the main target. He has a split second to make a choice that will either save or doom the entire mission. He calls an audible. The original plan goes in the trash. He wrenches the controls, pulling the first drone away from the massive cargo ship and aiming it directly at the tiny, fast-moving patrol boat. It's a huge gamble. He's about to use half his firepower to take out a glorified security guard. The drone designed for a straight-line attack on a large target is now in a dogfight, juking and weaving to avoid streams of tracer fire. The Russian gunner is good, but the drone is a nightmare to hit. The operator pushes the throttle to its limit. The drone leaps across the final 100 yards. The 110-pound warhead doesn't just sink the patrol boat, it obliterates the patrol boat in a 2,500-degree fireball, sending it to the seabed. The good news? The little guard dog is gone. The bad news? That massive explosion just served as a very loud, very bright alarm bell for everyone on the Port Olia 4. The element of surprise is completely gone, and now the Ukrainian operator has only one drone left to finish a much more difficult job against a target that's now wide awake, angry, and knows it's being hunted. The patrol boat's explosion turns the night into a brief, violent sunrise. The shockwave rolls across the water, and on the deck of the Port Olia 4, all hell breaks loose. Searchlights that were previously off snap on, their powerful beams cutting wildly through the smoke and fog. Panicked chatter of Russian sailors erupts over the radio as heavy machine guns open up, spitting streams of green tracers into the darkness. The ship is no longer a complacent target, it's a wounded, cornered animal lashing out blindly. For the Ukrainian operator, the mission has devolved into chaos. His screen is a strobing nightmare of searchlight beams, gunfire, and the raging fire from the destroyed patrol boat. He has one drone left, and his target is now actively trying to kill him. He pushes the throttle forward, sending the final Palyanytsia on its attack run. The drone weaves, dodging the frantic streams of tracer fire. The Russian gunners are just spraying and praying, unable to get a solid lock on the small, fast-moving target. 800 yards to target. The operator ignores the fuel tanks. The strategic prize is the cargo. He has to hit the main hold. 500 yards. The drone's camera is now filled with the ship's massive silhouette backlit by its own searchlights. In 15 seconds, this knife fight in the dark will be over one way or another. At 2:30 hours, the Ukrainian operator's knuckles are white. His screen is a strobing hellscape of searchlights, tracer fire, and the raging inferno of the patrol boat. He has one shot. The last drone doesn't fly straight. It jinks left, then right, threading the needle between two streams of heavy machine gun fire like a hawk diving through a briar patch. He's no longer aiming for a specific spot, he's just aiming for center mass. The drone leaps across the final 100 yards. The operator makes one last correction, nudging the crosshairs onto the dark rectangle of the main cargo hold. He holds his breath. The screen flashes white, then instantly cuts to static. Direct hit. In the Kyiv bunker, the operator slowly lets out the breath he's been holding for the last 2 minutes, leans back in his chair, and allows himself a grim, satisfied smile. That 110-pound warhead doesn't just explode, it performs physics-based surgery, detonating at over 26,000 feet per second. It creates a focused pressure wave of 3,000 psi. When it hits the Port Olia 4's 1-inch steel hull, it doesn't just punch a hole. It creates a molten jet of metal that tears through the outer plating and into the ship's guts. The real devastation comes 1.3 seconds later. The shockwave hits the 200 crates of Shahed components. The volatile solid rocket fuel in the drone engines and the sensitive electronics in the guidance packages begin to cook off in a chain reaction of sharp, crackling blasts. The cargo hold erupts in a 2,500-degree inferno, incinerating 200 Shahed components and tearing a gaping hole in the ship's side. Now, the Caspian Sea, whipped into a fury by the 20 mi winds, becomes the final weapon. The 10-foot waves begin pouring into the gaping wound, tons of cold water flooding the compromised compartments. The nearly 10 million-pound ship groans, its alarms now a dying wail as it lists heavily, surrendering to the waves. High above, NASA's satellite registers a new, brilliant thermal anomaly in the middle of the sea, a fire so intense it's visible from orbit. To understand why this one ship matters, you have to understand Russia's whole game. They use cheap $20,000 Shahed drones as flying sponges. Their goal is to force Ukraine to fire its precious multi-million-dollar Patriot or NASAMS missiles to shoot them down. It's a strategy of economic attrition, like forcing your opponent to use a Tomahawk missile to shoot down a bargain bin drone over and over again until the Tomahawks are gone. This one ship was carrying the guts for 200 of those flying lawnmowers. But this wasn't just a shipment, it was a critical artery in the supply chain feeding Russia's shiny new drone factory in Alabuga, their billion-dollar bet to build 6,000 Shaheds domestically. By sinking this ship, Ukraine didn't just stop 200 attacks, they choked the Alabuga factory, throwing a wrench into Russia's entire long-term production plan. It means 200 times Ukrainian air defense crews don't have to fire their interceptors, preserving the shield that protects their cities. 2 drones, 1 rusty trawler, and a handful of hackers just proved that Russia's greatest vulnerability isn't its hardware, but its imagination. While Moscow was bragging about its 6,000 drone superfactory, Ukraine executed a masterpiece of thrift store warfare, turning Russia's own security cameras against them and sinking their grand strategy with a $213,000 operation. So here's the question for you all from Military Command Grid. If you were the Ukrainian operator facing that unexpected patrol boat, what would your call have been? Would you have sacrificed 1 drone to clear the path, or would you have risked it all on a simultaneous strike against both targets? Let me know your grand strategy in the comments below.